I know we were expecting some new developments this weekend, but some of them have failed quality control. Make sure you indicate what you'd like redeveloped via the workstation.
Cheers, Carl. Some bad news going into the Austrian Grand Prix, which marks our 1-year anniversary with Force India. Welcome back to the F1 2018 career mode here, guys, and we are back for another lovely little race around Austria. One of my favourite tracks on the calendar, and annoyingly enough, it's the power upgrade, because Austria, argument can be made for it to be a very important power-based circuit. So we're going to get that power upgrade back on the motor, and into qualifying we must go. Vettel currently tops the timesheet, and we're going to try and make sure that doesn't happen, as Max hot lap Vettel's got a 14.4 currently on provisional pole position, and we are going to try and beat that. So we now charge up towards turn 2. Delta coming down slightly across the sector, and it's the fastest first sector of the session. Just clip the curb, a little oversteer on exit. That's cost us a tiny bit in comparison, but we're now charging down towards turn 3. We're pretty much already halfway through the lap as we come down towards turn 3. Very wide on apex. That's cost me time a little bit during the corner, but the Delta shoots up as we were clearly better on exit this time around. The blind apex of turn 4. You just have to wait to put the power on and utilise as much exit as possible. We're half second down on Sebastian Vettel. The second sector really isn't my strong point on this circuit. It is the final sector with maximum commitment now as we charge through the right-hander, use all the space on the exit, and then again through the right-hander, even more space on the exit as we charge towards the start-finish line, and it's provisional pole position with a 1.4.3. I figured, though, there was time still on the table, so we went out one more time, and then we are up on the Delta, but we got ourselves stuck behind Pierre Gasly through the final sector, so I couldn't show the level of commitment I normally would. It's cost us a good few tenths, and even though we got the DRS open, it's 4 tenths down on the Delta, but it's still pole position for the Austrian Grand Prix.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship, except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Let's talk about the captain. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
They've been avoiding mistakes and have had solid pace, so it's been a good season so far, but whether they can keep that up long term remains to be seen.
So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. The captain lines up on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, and Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Bottas, and Roman Grosjean. Magnussen, Gasly, Sergio Perez. They've taken a grid penalty. And Alonso, Stroll, Leclerc, Sergei Sirotkin, and Marcus Ericsson. Van Dorn and Brendan Hartley rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
You've done well to put it on pole, but we've still got work to do. Trying to cover the inside line off the start.
There you go. Davidson gives us a little review so far, and I'd say our pace has been strong. It's an easy one-stop here around Austria. Nothing really too much to do with the strategy. If we try to do anything too fancy, we're going to cost ourselves time. Perez originally did qualify 3rd, but he has, of course, dropped down to P13. Expect him to make a huge recovery drive during this Grand Prix. The Force India, as you saw there, for us to get, I believe, our maiden pole position in Formula 1. Huge speed around Austria. Just the commitment we can carry through the final sector. Here's the setup I've been running for this weekend. 6.5 on the aero, making sure that front wing and the front of the car is as planted as possible, especially through these long corners. 85 on throttle, 65 on the off there. Just make sure that we can get the wheels rotating at different speeds to allow essentially just more balance, especially through some of the long corners. I really suffer through the middle sector here, especially those double left-handers through sort of the end of Sector 2 and the beginning of Sector 3. So normally I found in Austria it can tear the tyres apart, so we really need to try and stay on top of things here and maybe take it easy during certain parts of the race, but I definitely want to try and pull out a bit of a gap to begin with, as I know during the end of stints I can really suffer with tyre wear, and that's when I expect the AI to come back at me. So around about sort of 10 laps in and near the end of the race. However, we build with the 5 red lights of the Austrian Grand Prix. Long hold, lights are out, and away we go from pole position immediately up to Rich, and Vettel has had a stonking start. Immediately pulls 2 or 3 car lengths ahead into turn 1. Ricciardo tries it down the inside, obviously the Red Bull ring here in Austria, but nothing gained for Ricciardo. We sit in P2 in the slipstream of Vettel as we go through turn 2 up towards turn 3. The Ferrari man has left the inside, nice and open, so we're immediately just going to go late, make it so we can't get on the power, dive ahead of Sebastian, and there's been contact initially at the start by the looks of things. I don't know if Perez has got himself involved. I saw a pink dot dropping back through the field, but we regain the lead at through turn 3. Vettel though is going to try and give it a go. Like I said, I'm not too strong through this left-hander. Vettel tries to come through, but we position our car on the racing line, make it so we can't turn in on us, and that is us back up into first place, retaining that lead of pole position that we're going to carry through to the end of the lap. Ricciardo up into third place, displacing Kimi Raikkonen, who's dropped down to fourth. Then we have a Mercedes in fifth, a Renault in sixth, and a Mercedes in seventh once again. But through the final corner, using a lot of curve, put the car out quite wide actually, but already down to Rich on the ERS. That's a 1:10.7 for the first lap of the Grand Prix. Just got to lead 35 more laps. Well, not necessarily. As we go at the end of lap 2, we're down into the 1:07s, and we've got over a second to Sebastian Vettel. So we've already pulled enough gap there to not be under threat of DRS up towards, exiting turn 3 as a 1:7.5 again, as we continue to set the pace, as we now pulled over 2 seconds ahead of Vettel, who is then a second ahead of Ricciardo, who is actually battling Kimi Raikkonen as Verstappen falls out of the race. Big cut towards lap 9. You can see we've built a bit of a gap towards Vettel, but now we get a VSC, which isn't too bad actually. Obviously the slow speed meant I dropped a bit of concentration, so I was definitely in a groove while I was building a lead. But saved a little bit of fuel, saved a little bit of tyre life. Everything's sort of just been working out. You can see the tyres cooled down a bit though, as the car definitely scrubbed wide. Gap to Vettel, 3 seconds. But this is where I said we've got about 4 laps left of this stint, and Vettel is going to be coming back at me. So lap 12, as we now close in, I believe we're going to be coming in at the end of lap 13. Vettel definitely closing on me, but we've opened up a big gap to Ricciardo, and Raikkonen, I believe, has already made his pit stop. So we're going to come in end of lap 13, swap to the soft compound tyres, then run to the end of the race. But everything's just been going swimmingly for me so far. As you see, we do come in, making our one and only pit stop. Nice and cautious on the line, don't need to push it. We're in control of this race. We're already over a third of the way through the Grand Prix, and everything's all hunky-dory, if I'm honest. This has gone better than I expected. I know we had a really good debut last season with Perez on his Ultra Softs. He'll still be using those, I believe, from the first stint, takes the lead. So he's up from 13th through to first. Magnussen coming through. Is he going to get ahead of me on exit? We've had a slightly poor exit of the out of the pit stops, and me and Magnussen on track usually means catastrophe, but we look and appear to have retained that position versus Kevin Magnussen, albeit the back end stepping out slightly out of turn 3 and down on the run towards turn 4. Magnussen's going to have DRS on us, you know, and he's going to pull to the outside. Kevin Magnussen, the guy that we hit twice or had incidents with at the Monaco Grand Prix, he's bloody done the switchback move on me down towards turn 5. Magnussen goes through, and then I can't duck through the inside of this corner, but look at the speed of the Haas. It just hasn't got the speed through the corners that we would carry. Of course, we're on fresher tyres, as his are on their 14th lap of wear, but he's pushing me back into the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel, and I need to get past Magnussen sooner rather than later. Nowhere through to make a move through the final sector. I've just got to be patient, Rich and hot lap out of the final corner. Boot, DRS open, slipstream gate. Magnussen pulls right, doesn't pull right enough. We surge down the inside of the Haas, slow it down, bring it under control, light bit of curb, and that's us through up into second place, and of course retaining net lead of the Grand Prix, as of course Perez will have to come in and make his pit stop, which he is doing at the end of lap 15. Now Perez there has pushed the ultra soft tyre really, really well. Can he, considering those tyres he qualified on, can he go a compound softer to the end of the race? We'll have to wait and see. I didn't see what tyres he switched onto there at the end of lap 15, but that realistically is what the Force India can do. But I am naturally harder on my tyres than the AI. Vettel has now got past Magnussen, so we've now got 20-ish laps to go in the Grand Prix, and we're setting a purple first sector. This is where we actually have some free air now that we're on our fresher tyres, and we're building a gap to Sebastian Vettel. We use all the space and a little bit more out of the final corner. 107.3, fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Gap to Vettel is 3.4. We've only got 10.4 though. Back to Sergio Perez as we come through the end of lap 17. Once again, we appear to be building a lead once more to Vettel, just building up that gap at 107.2. We're back in the rhythm, in the groove, setting the laps. We're doing a very Sebastian Vettel-esque performance against him here. 4 seconds ahead of Vettel, just maintaining that gap. And then Perez comes through and sets a faster lap than me at 107.1. It's a race between the two Force Indias by the looks of things to be the first into the 1 minute 6s, as Perez there at 107.1 once again. I don't know where he is on track, but he definitely isn't too far behind, as we of course have a Ferrari 3, or Ferrari 2-3, but Raikkonen is on the super softs, and Vettel starting to come back at me now as we start lap 23. He's now got the gap down to nearer 3 seconds. Perez now moves ahead of Raikkonen. He is on that super soft tyre, like I said, and he's only 8.1 behind. So 13 laps, or 14 if you include the one we're on left of this Grand Prix. Perez on a charge, on a compound softer, and arguably round this track with the faster car. Is he going to catch Sebastian Vettel? We will see as the race goes on. As Raikkonen on a fresh set of boots sets the fastest lap on a 107.0. Quickest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Will anyone dip into the 1 minute 6s? We will find out, of course, as our tyres get more worn. It will be difficult, as Danny Rick now unfortunately with a problem during this phase of the Grand Prix. Checking on the tyres, we're nearly at 30% wear. These tyres have been on now. Admittedly, that slide through turn 3 will indicate they're more worn than they actually are, but these tyres have been on for over 10 laps now, as we have a VSC during lap 27, and that is for Fernando Alonso, who has a right rear puncture by the looks of things and moving at a crawl through the apex of turn 3. So Vettel continues to close up to me. That's of course going to help Perez, who is on the softer compound of tyre, and I was sort of debating with myself at this point, do I back Vettel into Perez, or do I take the race win and make it, and at least guarantee 3 in a row for Force India? Because I have the pace over Vettel. It was just to see if we wanted to get that 1-2. Lap 29, we're moving at a decent rate of knots, and Alonso still very close, very, very close actually, to hitting the McLaren, who is limping back to the pits on that right rear puncture. As we're still in the 1 minute 7, so our car is still performing. 3.3 to Vettel, and Perez now only 2 seconds behind him. So Vettel is closer to the charging Force India from third place, rather than catching the one in the leads. We now start lapping cars. That was a salvo of Leclerc, and now Van Dorn out of the final corner. We now move on to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, and I'm actually saving myself a little bit of fuel and a little bit of ERS, because I figured no one's broken the 1 minute 7 barrier, as Leclerc unfortunately retires from the Grand Prix on the penultimate lap of the race. But Perez now only about a second behind Sebastian Vettel, but we're coming on to the final lap of the race. We're going to remain on board for the whole thing, rich and hot lap mode, and we've even got a bit of slipstream and a bit of DRS versus Marcus Ericsson just for assistance as we now go through turn 1. Here we go. These tyres now, 24 laps old these tyres are, but just to show what taking a bit of care of the car is, and what would happen if we actually push these cars to the ragged edge every single lap. Let's see what lap time we can do. And of course on the final lap of the Grand Prix we're set a purple first sector. We're getting a warning from Jeff. No thank you. Perez even closer to Vettel than he was before. He will be getting DRS down this back straight, but he's not going to be able to get past him, unfortunately, although Vettel is going to get caught up behind the salvo of Ericsson. But we're going to now come through the blind left hand to get on the throttle as early as possible, which we've done. We cross the sector split, and it's not purple, but we are up on our best lap of the Grand Prix, and now we just need to stay committed on these worn tyres through the final sector. We will come through to win the Austrian Grand Prix, but is it going to be the fastest lap of the race on the last time around, taking the curb, using all the space, charging towards the line to get the second win of our career? But was it a fastest lap?
Fantastic drive, just fantastic. You deserved that race win.
Brilliant stuff from Force India today. What a superb victory. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
It's time to present the top drivers with their trophies for today's Grand Prix. And there are a lot of people in the paddock very happy with this result. It's Force India on the top step.
So reverse scenario to the French Grand Prix. I win this race. Perez brings it home in third. And yes, it was a fastest lap of the race. On the final lap of the Grand Prix, 24 lap old tyres, we set a 106.9 to bring it home 3 seconds ahead of Vettel. Perez only 7/10 back there. He definitely earned driver of the day in my estimation. If he had been nearer up the grid, I personally think he could have won this race. And Raikkonen first of the two stoppers there, showing that the Ferrari was good today, but you know, that extra pit stop cost him. Ricciardo 5th. Sainz with a brilliant result there in 6th. Surpassing Hamilton, who fell to 7th, with Magnussen, Hulkenberg and Bottas rounding out the points. Mercedes are on the decline while Force India are charging through. And we are soon going to be battling with Ferrari in that Constructors' Championship. But, you know, Austria is just one of those tracks where I appear to do pretty well at, especially considering Season 1 results. So there we go, we're now 28 points behind Sebastian Vettel in the Drivers' Championship, and Perez moves to within 2 points of Kimi Raikkonen there. Interesting stuff at the top of the standings with, of course, Ferrari and Force India, as we're going to move over to the constructive side of things, where we gain points on Ferrari once again, just 30 points behind now. We have broken that 200-point mark as well, with Mercedes and Red Bull just separated by 1 point for that P3. But after the third win in a row for Force India and our second win of the season, let's go and have a chat with Claire.
Great work out there today. How do you think it went? How are you feeling after that win?
I said this was a power track, and just the engine in the back of this Force India has carried me to another fantastic win.
Another podium. You must be getting used to it up there.
3 in a row for 3 in a row for me, and 3 wins in a row for the team. And I just have to keep praising the engine. It's doing us absolute bits.
Well, looks like your luck has changed. Things went a lot better than last weekend, didn't they?
I mean, that's a something rough to say. I went from third to a win, but you know, the improvements to the aero package did help.
It's safe to say you're smashing everyone's expectations, isn't it?
You ask me this question all the time, and just get higher expectations. It's not hard, but everyone's been great.
Great. Well, that's everything.
So we're going to look at a screen we haven't seen in ages, and that is the rivalry screen, because we've lost multiple rivalries, 3 rivalries to Perez so far, but we're leading the way at the moment, 7 points to 4 in that rivalry, and we are smashing Carlos Sainz. We are 26-11 versus the Renault driver, so it looks like we're on to win our first rivalry. It's only taken us till Season 2, but Here's the resource points gained for the Austrian Grand Prix. A nice nearly 400 for the session total, an overall total of back over 1,000 once again for the car. Of course, we did utilise a front downforce upgrade for Austria to help the car out through those long left-handers. Like I said, that's where I struggle, and I really think that has benefited us towards a win this time out as we move more towards that sportsmanship percentage. But no more upgrades. Essentially, I did do that aero upgrade, even though I said last time out I wasn't going to. But this time, definitively, we're not going to do another upgrade. We're going to stick on course, gain those resource points up, and then once we get the minor engine development we're working on, we can then do the major one, and then we can look at 3 ultimate upgrades. Guys, if you have enjoyed, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and comment any feedback down below. If you want to be kept up to date with the content that comes to the channel, consider hitting subscribe and enabling them notifications to find out whenever I go live or whenever I post a video. Speaking of going live, please feel free to follow me on Twitter. Handle is down below. I do post a lot there whenever I am live. Of course, the channel has an archive of my live streams. Failing that, you can also check me out on Twitch and Mixer. Same username everywhere. And yeah, I suck at intros, and apparently I suck at outros. That's all my usual guff, and now I'm just sitting here watching the timeline go by. We won! Home Grand Prix next time out. Hopefully we don't get assassinated by Ericsson like we did last year. I'll see you all next time.